you can see that the projection isn't for that to slow down anytime soon. In fact, as you look, these guys are projecting from clear out to 2023 that it's going to continue to grow by 38% or so, which when you look at how big the category already is, and then on top of that, another 38% growth over the next few years, it's an exciting time for us to be a part of this. And that's why I'm thrilled that you've chosen to spend your time with us today, to get on and learn a little bit more about what this might mean to you and how you can better prepare for what lies ahead. And so in order to do that, let's move on to the next slide. I'm excited to be able to make an introduction to somebody that most of you know. Some of you who are brand new to us haven't met Dr. Mark Bartlett yet, but I've known Dr. Mark for a long time. This is a man that's committed to product quality. He's committed to products that make a difference in people's lives. And as he and our team of scientists have been working on this one, I'm just thrilled by what I'm seeing. You're going to hear from them more about the science, why this particular collagen is so meaningful and so effective, and then some of the clinical results that have come as the team's been preparing for this. So I'll be back a little bit later in the call, but really excited to be able to turn the time over to Dr. Mark Bartlett now. Mark?
Thank you so much, Justin, and it's great to be here. So let's start by just talking about collagen itself. So it's a big category, and it's interesting. One of the first questions that I get as a scientist in this area of collagen is, wait a minute, you know, like collagen is something that's, sure, it's in your skin. It's a very important structural component, but will eat collagen, if you just eat collagen, does that really get into the skin? Does it really have any benefit? And most scientists, maybe even some of your doctor friends would say, well, I'm kind of skeptical, because collagen is really just a type of protein. So it's really something that then once it gets into your gut with all of the acid and the proteolytic enzymes, just gets broken down to amino acids. So how can that possibly help? And it's interesting, but we have learned that certain proteins, you break it down to a certain point, it's called a peptide. It's a short string of amino acids, and that those can actually make a difference in the skin. And how do we know that? Because over the last 20 years or so, there have been various studies that have showed that they can. So I wish that you could sort of see what goes on in the background. You know, we have a 6S process. And part of that 6S process, if you see the first couple of S's, is selection and sourcing. And as scientists, that's what we do. We say, well, okay, if we're going to do a collagen product, we need it to work. That's called efficacy, right? If it doesn't work, and if people don't notice it, then they're just going to stop using it. They'll go look somewhere else. So, you know, that's our pride in our research and development department, is finding ingredients that actually do work, that have studies. And if they don't have studies, we do it ourselves. If they do have studies, we'll do another study ourselves. And so I'll describe a little bit about that today. But so it's a little bit like shopping. If you just go back again to the first slide, it's like shopping. And what I love about being a scientist at Nu Skin is they say, well, when you go shopping for this ingredient, it's part of the 6S process: selection, sourcing, specification. So we're going to give you the budget to buy a Mercedes. You don't have to go looking in the Geo Metro sort of area. Buy the Mercedes, because that's the one that's going to work. And so that's what we have been able to do. We have found a source of collagen. And so you can see from the left here, sort of the collagen strand. And if you use a certain type of a process, you can actually break it down to what you'd call a hydrolysate. And so we found this bovine collagen that is actually really nicely studied, really nicely controlled. So you see on the right side of the slide now this kind of a gamish. It's once you've broken down that peptide, the amino acids, you've got a bunch of peptides, and it's really a complex mixture. Some are short, some are long, some are single amino acids. So this is kind of where a lot of companies leave it. This is where they're selling a collagen product and it looks a bit like this. But the next step is really important, or the next several steps, where you now sort of do a further purification. You're using HPLC or using other techniques to make sure that you have the specific peptides that are bioactive and that will help the skin. And then you also have to do further, you know, each batch, do the HPLC, do the studies to make sure that you have the right components. So that's where we are with the major material here that we've chosen. And the next slide describes the dual action of such a strategy. So if you go to the next slide, we have what's really unique about the right collagen peptide is that A, it kind of sends a signal to the cells that are within your skin to say, wait, I can see a peptide floating around here that tells my body that there's some breakdown that's happening. And we don't like it when there's too much breakdown of the collagen. So it's time to rebuild. So it's kind of like that key in the lock there, where it's really the foreman, where it comes in and sends a signal to the nucleus to say, hey, you need to start upregulating the production of collagen in the body. And what's really unique is there's lots of other keys floating around. They're actually also used, that peptide, as part of the building material. So it's kind of like, you've got the foreman and the building material working together. And if you choose the right peptide and a really good source, that's what's happening. You have a dual action. So the next slide will describe studies then. Here's 3 studies that were done on this particular bioactive collagen peptide. On the left, you'll see this is a study that was a 4-week study, and it measured elasticity in the skin. And what we showed after 4 weeks was this really nice, in the light green or blue bar there, that demonstrates the increase in elasticity. And this is an objective test, because you have some really cool equipment in the dermatologist lab that's able to measure this objectively. And what's really interesting to me is, if you read the study a little more deeply, that effect persisted over 8 weeks after taking the product. And it was more pronounced in those people who are over 50 years of age. So it's good for all of us, even older guys like me. The middle one talks about wrinkle volume. So we have some really good technology that they use to sort of measure the depth of the wrinkles, and showed there a really nice decrease, a 20% decrease overall in wrinkle volume. And then on the right side, you'll see a study that was done, interestingly, on nails. So this was actually a 6-month study that showed a 12% increase in nail growth over that period, over sort of a baseline. And also that we saw a decrease, about a 42% decrease in broken nails. So, just another indication, really. It's not to do with skin, but it's another indication that this is actually working, that we have efficacy with this. So let's go to the next slide. I talked about shopping. Before I go back to shopping, which I guess I've got my mind on shopping too much tonight. Here's some more studies looking at the actual, not just, pro-collagen type 1 increasing in the skin in this study. And also you see elastin increasing by nearly 20%, which is just a beautiful thing. And then another skin important protein called fibrillin. So that's another study that shows after 8 weeks of supplementation, the impact of the right kind of collagen peptide in an ingredient in a product. So let's go to the next slide. So we've talked about the bioactive collagen peptides. And so now we've bought the Mercedes, and now it's time to ask,